Let us turn, gentlemen, to the economy. My first question goes to Governor Johnson. Donald Trump, when asked to name 3 functions of government, said national security, health care, and education. Where did he go wrong?
You know, I really don't even want to comment on Donald Trump. I really don't. I really think that when Donald Trump talks about deporting 11 million illegal immigrants, that's just wrong. When he talks about building a fence across the border, that is just wrong. When he talks about killing the families of Muslim terrorists, that is just wrong. When he talks about free market, but he's going to force Apple to make their iPads and their iPhones in the United States, that's just wrong. When he talks about a 35% tariff, that's just wrong. When he says he's going to bring back waterboarding or torture or whatever is taken, that's just wrong. He's just wrong.
Mr. Peterson.
Well, I'd like to build a wall around Donald Trump and make Bernie Sanders pay for it. Truly, it is frightening to see what has become of our nation when a man who is truly the definition of a fascist sits at the top of the Republican ticket. The forces of darkness are on the march in the United States, and only the Libertarian Party can save us. We will stand united against the forces of populist nationalism, because nationalism is only ever a means to an end, not the end itself. If nationalism leads to individual rights, then it is useful. But the Founding Fathers knew that when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for us to list the causes of our separation, we must have a revolution. And if Donald Trump wins the nomination, we should revolt!
Dr. Feldman.
If Donald Trump thinks health care, the economy, and national security are important, I'm glad that asshole finally got something right. But it's not the government to do it. It's our job. It's our money, and it's our job. I don't want to tell our government, leave us alone. I want to tell our government, relax. We got this.
Mr. McAfee.
We have poured nearly $100 billion a year into education, and we're near at the bottom. Another $100 billion, we'll all be illiterate. And in terms of health care, please, God, that's our second largest expense in this country. And you ask the veterans, are they benefiting? Please, no, they're not. Those are not the priorities, my friend. Thank you.
Mr. Perry.
I would say that it's a flawed question that was asked of Mr. Trump. They probably intended to ask what is the legitimate function of government, and I would say there isn't one. Although the Declaration of Independence does say that governments exist with the consent of the governed and are supposed to protect life, liberty, and property. So if there is a government, that's the function, protect life, liberty, and property. But I think you're smart enough to be your own government.
This next question is to Mr. Peterson. He'll start. Should illegal immigration be stopped? Do you believe in open borders? If so, what does open borders mean?
I believe that a free market in labor is just as effective in lifting people out of poverty as a free market in commodities. Because what business does the government have to get in between an employer and a private contract between an employee? Borders are imaginary lines drawn on a map by politicians. And the nation state sees fit only to serve the needs of the individuals. Now, despite the fact that I believe in the freest world possible, I believe that we as libertarians can offer to the American people a solution that we have had. And our history shows that during the progressive era, boo progressives, but good that we had an Ellis Island policy. Oh, yeah, it said the ship is here. The immigrants are here.
Doctor, you're out of time. Dr. Feldman.
I was buzzed over a couple of times, yeah. So America is the land of opportunity. Give us your poor, your tired, your huddled masses yearning to break free. I will streamline this immigration system, and we will have liberty for Americans, and we will be welcoming immigrants under my administration.
Dr. Feldman.
Like all libertarians, I believe that every human being has human rights. And the rights you're born with don't matter which side of an imaginary line you were born on. We have illegal immigration because the multinational corporations and the wealthy corporate leaders like illegal immigration. They like having low-skilled, low-paid workers, and we need to empower them and open the borders. Thank you.
Mr. McAfee, the question is about open borders.
I am an immigrant. I came over when I was 2 years old. My father was an American serviceman in the Second World War. All of your ancestors were immigrants. What does the illegal mean? Our first immigrants had to stay in America for 6 months to become an American. What's wrong with that? Please, open every border. We need diversity, we need work, we need creative people. Do you think the people coming here escaping oppressive governments are a problem? Only if we are an oppressive government.
Mr. Perry.
No human being is illegal. What would open borders look like under President Perry? Well, I'll tell you, we already have the policy in place. We just need to remove parts of it. There's a policy called the wet foot, dry foot policy, where if you have dry feet and you're from Cuba, you get to stay in the United States. We need to implement that for every person around the globe. Revoke the wet foot, where the Coast Guard looks for people to send them back to tyranny.
Governor Johnson.
We should make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country and work to be able to get a work visa. And a work visa should entail a background check and a social security card that applicable taxes get paid. We should not build a fence across the border. We should not deport 11 million illegal immigrants. We need to embrace immigration in this country. We need to recognize that these are the cream of the crop when it comes to workers coming across the border. They are not taking jobs that U.S. citizens want, and it is not an issue of lower pay unless it's an issue of language, and they are the first ones that recognize that.
Dr. Feldman, should taxpayers pay for or subsidize education at any level, whether K through 12 or post-secondary education?
Yes, for their children, not for other people's children. People should be empowered to educate themselves and their kids. We shouldn't take that responsibility away from people.
Mr. McAfee.
There is an offensive word in your question, and that word is taxpayer. No, absolutely not. Taxpayers should pay for nothing that they do not receive goods or services for.
Mr. Perry.
There should not be government-run schools. That does not mean that I oppose education. I love education, and to quote Mark Twain, I never let my schooling get in the way of my education. Every one of you in this room and watching at home can get an MIT education right now, absolutely free. They have put all of their courses online. You can take them right now. Go there, MIT. All of the courses online, absolutely free. Go to Khan Academy. You can learn anything you want for free.
Governor Johnson.
As governor of New Mexico, I was more outspoken than any governor in the country regarding school choice. For 6 straight years, I proposed a full-blown voucher program to bring competition to public education, unleash tens of millions of entrepreneurs to deliver better education in this country. With regard to the federal role when it comes to education, abolish the Federal Department of Education. They give each state $11 11 cents out of every school dollar that every state spends, but it comes with 14 cents worth of strings attached, 15 cents worth of strings attached, and now Obama wants to add a bathroom to that, so now it's up to 16 cents.
Mr. Peterson.
Well, Gary, you took all my good applause lines. America,
Oh, you wish.
yeah, America became the greatest nation in the world because of the one-room schoolhouse with nothing more than a pencil and a piece of paper. And now we spend more on our education than any civilized nation in the world. It's not an issue of money. It's an issue of centralization, central economic planning. We must stop these central economic planners and their control over the lives of our children. We need more homeschooling. We need to allow the states to decide these problems. We need to end the Federal Department of Education once and for all.
Mr. McAfee. Even President Obama said the three biggest entitlements programs, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, are, in his word, unsustainable. They comprise nearly 50% of the federal budget. What would you do about them?
Social Security is a special issue because we have committed to people who have paid a substantial percentage of their work and salary into this program. I don't think anyone under the age of 40 believes you will get any of that back. I'm sorry, you people we will have to treat differently. The rest of these entitlement programs, I'm sorry, it sounds unsavory perhaps, or even uncaring, even though it is not. They are not helping those people, and certainly not our nation.
Mr. Perry.
As with everything, I believe they should be completely voluntary. How many people in here, and I actually do want a show of hands, love grandmas? How many of you would donate money to feed grandmas? I do not see a single person that did not raise their hand. That's how you fund Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare.
Governor Johnson.
I think the only way that you reform Medicaid and Medicare is to devolve those functions to the states. 50 laboratories of innovation and best practice. As governor of New Mexico, in my heart of hearts, if given a fixed amount of money, I could have delivered health care to those on welfare and those over 65. With regard to Social Security, it's absolutely fixable, but it's raising the retirement age. It's having a very fair means testing. It's being able to self-direct those funds in a way that you see fit. One of the great untold inequities in our country is that poor people who pay into Social Security their entire lives and die, that money reverts to the government as opposed to their heirs.
Mr. Peterson.
I say it's time to allow young people to opt out of Social Security. But they stole the money from us in the first place, so I think they should have to give it back. Now, when it comes to how we can get out of Social Security's problems, I think that if we did implement a flat tax on the road to abolishing the income tax entirely, that we would get more revenue, because as of now, only 27% of the suckers pay their taxes. If we had a flat tax, perhaps we would get more revenue and we could plug the gap with Social Security as we allow young people to opt out. It's time for us to opt out.
Dr. Feldman.
Government programs are almost always bad deals. We need new ideas. I have the idea, let people on Social Security voluntarily invest in student debt. That decreases the student debt from 12% or 8% to 2%, and then it increases the return to our Social Securities up from 1% to 2%, doubling their benefits. Let people in mid-career take care of the educational opportunities for the kids, and then when the kids get jobs, they can support the retirements of their elders. Thank you.
Mr. Perry.